Welcome to the Perfect Life Awakening Show, hosted by Royce Morales. Royce has been a transformational facilitator, teaching groundbreaking, spiritually based courses for more than 4 decades. She is the author of 3 books about her teachings. Join Royce as she takes you on a journey into how to live your best life and find your true purpose through discovering the origins of subconscious, disempowering notions and releasing them. She talks with experts and inspiring people just like you who learned to trust their intuitive inner wisdom, which led to life-changing shifts. Today, her guests live an empowered existence and are helping change the world to a higher consciousness place based on truth and love. You deserve to awaken to, align with, and embody your true self and live a life filled with love. Transform yourself from triggered to empowered and create your perfect life. Here is your host, Royce Morales.
Hi, welcome to my show. I'm Royce Morales. I always love hearing my little commercial, which reminds me, somebody said to me the other day, gosh, Royce, you never really talk about your teachings and you don't really tell people what you do. I guess because I didn't really want to turn this into a commercial about myself, because I really wanted to focus on my amazing guests. But all right, here's my commercial. Perfect Life Awakening is really a deep dive within, and it's about finding the sources or the origins for some of the triggers and the buttons that you have so that you can release them. It's not about just sitting around going, oh God, this terrible thing happened to me. And it's really about getting to the source. And I've come up with ways to resolve those sources so those triggers can stop triggering you. Yay. I've taught thousands of people through 40 years. I never can imagine that I've been doing this for 40 years, but I have. People from all walks of life, people that didn't even know that they were triggered and they didn't even know what they wanted or needed in life. So the work is really magical. I'm always amazed as to what happens because everybody has a different result from this work. And I find that a lot of it is miraculous. You know, I've had people heal themselves. I've had people completely change their life because of some of the stuff that they've gotten in touch with. But basically, even if you don't get in touch with origins of your triggers, the work is really about shifting your perception on yourself. So you see yourself in a completely different way. And when you start seeing yourself in a different way, you start seeing others in life in a different way. The ultimate goal, the big picture I have in mind is world peace, you know, nothing big, but it's really about discovering an amazing life that you can live by living, doing what you're supposed to be doing, getting in touch with your purpose, your bigger reason for being here. It's not about intellectualizing. It's not about memorizing facts and information. In fact, if you fall asleep as I'm talking, that's fine. But if you do the work, if you do the inner work, that's when things will start to shift. It's not, you know, like I said, memorizing concepts or cliches or, you know, doing superficial spiritual work. It's scary. I must admit, doing this work brings up fear, and it's not easy. I give people big shovels and mirrors at the beginning of class. And it brings up a lot of stuff. So stepping out of that comfort zone is not necessarily an easy route to take, but it's worth it. And if the work is calling your name, reach out to me. I'm actually starting a new class on Monday, this Monday, and you can find out all about it. It's an introductory class, 6 p.m. Pacific time. So let me know if you're interested, and I'll send you a Zoom link. And you can find me at roycemorales.com or on my website, perfectlifeawakening.com. So that's all I wanted to say. That's the end of my commercial. There we go. So let's talk about my amazing guest who's going to be, I gave the title of her show, of her interview, is Unraveling Your Soul, Anna Dane. And I connected with her, strangely enough, on Facebook. she just popped up, and I said, "Oh, she's doing very similar things than I'm doing, and we have the same hair and the same glasses." I thought that was pretty funny. So what she does is amazing, and she's going to talk about that. Um, and let me just tell you a little bit about her. She helps her clients to unravel their soul, and that's why I titled this episode Unraveling Your Soul. She does that by helping to connect people to the spiritual energetic world rather than the most standard ways of helping people. She helps guide people to remember who they are, remind them what their purpose is, and help them live from a place of wonder and gratitude. She has her MA, and she's a writer, she's a healer, she's an oracle, she's an artist. You should see some of her work on Facebook. It's amazing. She sees into the adventure of people's souls and help them unravel what's in the way of their amazing human experience. It's a deep healing journey, creative, immersive experiences to spark magic and meaning. She's intuitively based, and she's a former therapist. I can't wait to find out what shifted for her. And okay, well, let's find out. Tell us why you shifted from being a therapist to being what you're now being. Give us the story.
So I remember I'm a graduate of the University of Santa Monica, and they have a program in spiritual psychology. And at the time, they had a master's in counseling psychology. And the program was incredible. And I sat in in my graduation. It was 4 years of just deep work, so challenging, so incredible. And I sat in the graduation ceremony, and I knew that I was never going to really be a therapist.
Wow.
And it was like a lightning bolt. I did not particularly listen. I then went out and tried to find a job and, struggled to do that. And then finally I was working at a group home in Pasadena. And, it was good work. I loved my kids that I worked with. I worked with teenage girls. And I was miserable. I cried every day on my way to work. I was missing something. I was missing being able to be me. When I sat in that graduation, uh, it was listening to Jean Houston speak. And she was talking about this moment with Margaret Mead, of overhearing Margaret Mead say, "Thank God I am Margaret Mead." And that was the moment that there was just this like flash of, that's what I want to know and live and embody. And I listened to Jean Houston talk about her incredible adventures, and I thought I would give up everything, all these supposed tos of who I thought I was and who I thought I needed to be, to have that life. And it was so hard to embrace. And I think it's a constant embrace for me. I'm often on that edge and I'm there again. And I love it. And it's a challenge. But there came a time when, there almost about 2 years, I had done all of the things I was supposed to do to be licensed. Had my 3,000 hours and all the things. And I got a new job. And because I thought the problem is not me. The problem is the job. And turns out the problem was not the job. Within 3 weeks of that other job, they wanted me to drive, like, I was living, for anyone who's in Southern California, I was living in the Valley. They wanted me to drive to industry in the morning at 8 a.m. It's like, that's a 2-hour drive both ways. And so they let me go. And it was from there, my mom said to me, make this the best thing that ever happened to you. And I took that to heart, and I sat with myself, and I knew I didn't want to be a therapist. I wanted to take what I learned, but I didn't want to be in that container, that there was a bigger adventure that I wanted to embody so that I could have the adventures that Jean Houston was talking about, so that I could feel that gratitude of being myself that she spoke about when she talked about Margaret Mead. And I wanted that.
Wow.
And that, you know, as soon as I left, I knew, you know, I wasn't going to be a therapist. That moment in graduation was right. You know, and I'm glad I didn't listen right away. I'm glad I had the experience, and I'm glad I am no longer on that path. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah. So you shifted into doing what you're doing right away, or was there a transition
Oh
there?
yeah, there's been a lot of transitions. I started a project actually called the Receiving Project. And this was probably about 14 years ago. It was a process I had started doing when I was at the University of Santa Monica. It was a process of learning how to receive because I was terrible at it. So I began this process of every day for a month, I would receive a gift. I just would set the intention every day. And I wanted to see if it would happen. And it did. So I just kept doing it. I was doing it for years. I have like notebooks of, you know, the things I received every day. And so I thought, well, here I am. Maybe somebody else wants to participate in this with me. And turns out they did. I had no idea what I was doing. I sent out like a list, you know, I sent out an email to like the Yahoo group we had for the University of Santa Monica. Um, I put it up on Facebook and figured like, I don't know, like my mom, my sister, my sister-in-law, they'll do it with me. It'll be fun. 75 people wrote back.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
and I was like, okay, let's start. And then people just kept wanting to join. I would send out each letter I would write an email a few times a week, and I would send them all individually. I didn't know things like at that time, Constant Contact even existed. Um, so it was born from there. From there, I just started offering a gift of a session with me. I had done some intuitive healing work prior to grad school and while in grad school as well. So it slowly morphed, and I began doing some more traditional coaching, which was never really traditional because it was always me. My clients would always say, like, I know there's something else happening here. Like, yeah, you're right. You're not wrong. But it took a long time. You know, there was definitely a moment, you know, 8 or so years ago of coming back to myself again, standing on that edge and saying, I want to really stand forward in my weirdness, in what I know about people, in the healing work that I know how to do and have done really my whole life. and so it took, you know, it took a lot of courage inside of me. I was very afraid. I remember saying to my coach often, like, this is just too weird. I can't do it. She being like, yeah, it's not that weird. Go do it. And as soon as I started doing it, you know, people responded and wanted the weirdness that I offer. And it's developed and changed so much even since then. But I love the evolution of it. I love getting to be in the constant unfolding of myself and my work in the world.
So, tell us about this weirdness. What exactly is it that you
Mhm.
do?
So I do a few different things, but I think in particular in this weirdness, it's that what I refer to as seeing into the adventure of people's souls. So when I work one-on-one with folks, they will come to me often with the big thing that they haven't been able to shift, change, transform. It's the place that they find themselves consistently stuck in. And I get to work with them and see where the roots of that stuckness lives. So I will, you know, just kind of attune and begin to get information about their past lives. Excuse me, their familial patterning, ancestral patterning, what's happening in this life, all the places that the invitation exists. I don't think we're being punished in these challenges that we experience. For me, they're invitations. And the biggest invitations are the ones that keep coming back. And they may never stop. You know, there are invitations in my life that I'm going to meet repeatedly. They're no longer to me the worst thing in the world. You know, it's like, oh, here it is again. There's another, you know, something else here for me to unravel. There's another treasure. There's another invitation. And my work allows me to help people discover where the roots of the invitation are, really what the invitation is and how they can answer it without trying to fix it, make it better, make it disappear. Because I just don't think healing is always the cessation of symptoms, whether that be physical, emotional, mental. It's like I'm always going to have challenges. That doesn't mean that I can't meet them from a place of my wholeness. Do I always meet them from a place of my wholeness? No. Do I do it a whole lot more than I did, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago? Absolutely. I'm no longer afraid of myself. And I see that in clients so often through this work. They're just no longer afraid of their unfolding, their invitations, their life. It's like, yeah, I can see who I am in a bigger way. So that's my weirdness.
I love that weirdness.
Thank
So
you.
is there, you kind of sort of described what you do, but is there a specific technique that you use?
No, this is just work that I have sort of formed and shaped over, 20 some odd years at this point of doing it in different ways. And truly my whole life, I've always known things about people. I've always been able to feel into people. So it's just something that I have honed for myself. It's not that I haven't taken classes and worked with folks that have assisted me in that, because I sure have. And there really isn't a modality or a technique to at least that side of my work, but really in all of my work, in my writing, in some of the other more creative experiences that I lead. It's all of my own shaping and forming.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's all intuitive and you just know what to do and what to say to a person.
Generally, yeah. And when I don't, I just let myself be quiet.
Yeah.
And it unfolds and unravels the way
Yeah.
that it does.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find so much more ease in trusting myself rather than the times in my life that I have tried to stick to a prescriptive path in
Mhm.
healing. When I first left my work as a therapist, I started doing intuitive readings at a bookstore near me. And at first, I was like bringing all my decks because I thought I needed them. And I love it. I still have a ton. And they're such great tools. But I realized that they were a crutch, that they were holding me back from accessing, or not even accessing, but giving voice to what I knew was there. And so as soon as I put them away, it was like a door opened. It's like, oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, it's funny how the universe works, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. So you mentioned past lives. Is that an integral part of what you do with people?
It can be. I think it really depends on, the person and the journey that they're on. But I find that oftentimes the invitation, the biggest invitations, the places that we experience perhaps the most pain or the most stuckness, that we're going to therapy, we're seeing the healers, we're doing the work around, and we can't break through the way we are hoping to. I find so often there are roots that exist outside of this present moment.
Mhm.
And in learning about them, just in really in the act of learning about them, something transforms. But part of the work that I do when talking to someone, if they're coming to me with that issue, looking in, seeing, oh yes, like there's this life. When I tell them about that life, so very often it resonates with facts that are happening in their current life that I have no idea about. I'm just telling them the story that I'm seeing and hearing. And as we begin to energetically clear that, things shift in this lifetime. There may still be the issue, but the struggle around it isn't there. They soften to it.
Yeah. And you say energetically clear it.
Hmm.
What do you actually do to do that with people?
So it's something I struggle to explain because, again, it's not somebody else's technique. So it's just my own words. But often, when specifically in a past life or in looking at an ancestral line of energy, um, there's often in one moment, one person, one experience that has cemented the invitation, that, the origin of it. And so I begin to work from that point. Sometimes I will literally, in my mind, energetically speak to that person or that experience in that other time and place, helping them to see what what is available, what could be different. Sometimes it feels just like me moving energy, literally kind of picking up old stagnant energy and moving it. Sometimes it's waves, sometimes it's wind. I don't really think it's me. A lot of times it's just me witnessing um, what what happens when we see the roots of an issue and want it to change and transform for us.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds very similar to what I do, except the only difference is that I have my clients discover their own,
Mm-hmm.
release it on their own. And it seems like when they have that personal experience with it, it seems to be really powerful. Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. I know to me, it always, even now after doing this work for so long and describing it, I'm like, it still feels weird. And yet I see the results of it all the time. People come back and are like, something has changed.
Yeah. So,
Doors are opening. I'm no longer stuck in this thing I
yeah.
was stuck with for my whole life.
Yeah. And so give us an example of some kind of shift or result that you've noticed.
Mm-hmm. So not that long ago, I was working with someone who just really desired partnership. They'd been in several relationships, all with very similar challenges around communication, around abandonment, um, and feeling like they needed to hold on. And she talked about it, about like sinking her claws into things and holding on. Um, and that wasn't how she wanted to show up in her relationships. And she wanted to be with people who, didn't feed into that dynamic. And so we worked in looking both. There was two particular patterns that really showed up. One from a past life of just this really intense fear uh, of losing what you love. And it wasn't even a romantic experience. It was an experience of a mother and a child, and that child being taken from her. And this commitment, this like deep vow within her soul of holding on, and that she just will hold on to everything. And she could see as I'm telling her this and we're working through this in the session, she's like, oh, I hold on to everything. This is not, just my romantic relationships. And she could, feel the energy of that vow. And we began to work towards clearing it, for her in her present life to acknowledge all the places and the fears around it. And then I was able to begin again to do the unraveling and the clearing with that woman and that past life. There was also an ancestral pattern of not feeling good enough and having to consistently prove your feminine expression. It was definitely through the feminine line of energy in her family. And in unraveling both of those, it's been, I think, about a year. And I know that she's in a relationship now that feels very, very different from how it was, where she feels empowered and not like dragged into this commitment that wasn't really hers, but it was also very much the story that she had to answer to. There was an invitation here of trust. Can I trust that I am enough? Can I trust myself to choose a partner and to choose love over and over again that's going to serve me?
Yeah.
And so, her work is to answer the invitation, and my work is to make it a little easier for that to happen.
Oh, wow. That's a great example. I'm talking to Joanna Dane, and we need to take a little bit of a break here. And we'll be right back, and we'll continue our discussion about her work and her amazing creative process. Thank you so much. I'll be right back.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities. Transform your life from triggered to empowered with the Perfect Life Awakening program. Royce Morales' extraordinary, enlightening, spiritually based teachings that get to the core of subconscious underlying motivations driving your life. With more than 4 decades as a transformational facilitator and author, Royce Morales offers ways to awaken your deserving, authentic existence, free from paralyzing issues, repetitive patterns, and programmed fears, while simultaneously awakening your spiritually aware higher consciousness, purposeful self. Perfect Life Awakening offers remote group classes and one-on-one sessions to explore even deeper levels. Check out Royce Morales' books, Want, True Love, Past Lives, and Other Complications. No, A Spiritual Wake-Up Call. And Back, Rebirth After Stroke. Learn more about Perfect Life Awakening and Royce Morales. Visit roycemorales.com.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Welcome back to the Perfect Life Awakening Show. I'm talking with Anna Dane. She's amazing. She's talking about unraveling your soul and just gave a beautiful example of how her work works. So you take clients on various quests all the time. I'm just always amazed at your creative, the journeys that you come up with, and they're so phenomenal. And I'm very involved in all of this realm for, decades, and yet I've never seen anyone come up with such different, unique things. Tell us about some of those quests that you do.
Thank you. So these quests, I am a reader. I read fiction. I love fiction. I learn through story. I always have. I was that kid who just disappeared into a book. I'm still that adult who disappears into books. And at the very beginning of the pandemic, I had this idea. A while even before that, I had gotten one of those like solve a mystery through the mail things. This one was done by an artist, and I was getting it ready to give to a friend for her and her family to do during the pandemic. And I looked at it and I thought, "Ooh, could I do something like that?" And I sat with it and I was like, I think I could, except that it wouldn't, it'd have to be mine. It wouldn't look necessarily like a mystery to solve. But I just love being inside of a story, being inside of a work of art. I'm sure like so many, like I've always wanted that. Every book I've ever read, I am a little bit inside of or a lot inside of, and I want to stay there. I want the magic that I know is there and real. And that's how I learn. Both, like, I think on a spiritual level, I've learned so much through novels and I've healed so much through those stories. I really wanted to see if I could create that. And so I did. And so these quests are journeys through the mail. People get mailed letters to them, and it is an immersive experience. I'm a writer, and I've written for years. And so to be able to tell a story like this, I never thought I'd be able to. And I was telling a friend not that long ago, I'm like, I don't really write fiction. And she gave me this look, and I was like, I guess I do write fiction. I like to think of it as make-believe made real. Because what I've noticed is that when people step into these stories, I call it the Evers, this land, this world I've created that I invite people into. When people step into the Evers, when they step into this make-believe made real landscape, they're so much more willing to pick up the pieces that were lost. They're so willing to trust their intuition. The very first quest I created was the quest of becoming, and this journey of becoming who we are. And one of the very first letters, I invited people to create a key, to find their key, excuse me. I didn't really explain what the key was. I hinted at it, that there was this thing inside that was going to unlock the door. Claim it. What is it? And people just did. They just did. My most recent quest was a journey through a bookstore because, love bookstores. It was this magical bookstore all about becoming dense and claiming ourselves. And I invited people to claim their secret name, and people just do. I got no questions about it. I got a lot of people sharing their secret names with me, but no questions about it. They were just willing. And I find when we create this world that is, make believe, what people are willing to do in it is so extraordinary. And there's so much healing and so much growth that happens in these quests. I love them. And then I get to write and tell a story and make art. And I just have the absolute best time doing them.
Wow. So you say there's healing from these.
Yeah.
And yet I think I've read in some of your writings that it's kind of like not the word that you use really, because it is so different. I mean, what we define as healing is so different from how you're looking at it. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So I think, like I said before, to me, healing doesn't necessarily mean the cessation of symptoms.
Right.
To me, healing is coming back to myself, standing deeper in my being. I truly believe we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that my point, my purpose, not just mine, all of ours, is to have that human experience.
Yeah.
And so I want to come back deeper into myself, to listen to the truth as it rises through me and let it guide me on my path. And to me, when I can do that, I experience healing. I still may experience, the challenges and issues and invitations. I will experience all of those. And can I do it from a place that is more deeply anchored into me? And that's what I hope to offer in these quests, are real, lived, again, make-believe made real experiences that people get to play in that world for a moment. I did a quest on unraveling and coming undone, because I think we spend so much time trying to hold ourselves together. And I had my own experience of beginning to pull at the threads of what was and what was expected of me, and the shape and form I thought was appropriate for me to be in. I've done this so many times in my life. It's like in each time, there's this expansion that happens. And I find a form that is more authentic to who I am, as opposed to what has been placed upon me. And for me, that is healing. That is coming back to a deeper experience of me, of my truth, of my magic.
I think the word expansion is perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking on my notes. There was something that I wrote down that I thought, oh, what a great expression this is. And now of course I can't find it, but something about shaking up the piece. There was a great Joanna expression. Do you remember what that was?
I don't.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said about like, pulling that thread, letting things come undone, letting things be sometimes in chaos as they come back to the shape that they are. I can't, despite my trying, I cannot control, the ebbs and the flows of it all. I can simply be in it.
Yes.
And do the best that I can.
Oh, I'm still looking in my notes because it was just such a perfect expression. I thought that's just perfect. So, who is generally attracted to your work? Have you noticed any similarities or?
Yeah, I think especially in the quest work, I work, a lot of people who show up are creatives in some way, shape, and form who enjoy the experience of art and who want to experience something different. Everyone I work with, these are folks who have done the work.
Yeah.
Rarely do people come to me at the beginning of their spiritual experiences. I get people who have been on this path for a bit and are looking to either move through something big or just experience something different. I work with folks, again, especially in the quest. It's like these are people who, like me, have wanted to remember the magic that they knew was there when they were a child. I remember having no doubts about that at periods of my life, no doubts about myself and what I could trust in that truth, in that knowing, in that intuition. They want that. And they want something that's playful and fun. A large majority of the people I work with identify as female, as women, not exclusive, but there definitely seems to be an opening, in that energy. And then I'm always surprised, when people show up. Not that long ago, I had someone refer to me, and we just had such a great session. And then she referred her father to me, who was a man in his late 80s and had never done anything really like this with me or with anyone, but was so willing. And I mean, we were on the phone forever. We went like 45 minutes over because neither one of us were prepared to get off the phone. We were just, it was one of the most profound and deep sessions. So I am, always open to being surprised because I am surprised all the time by folks who show up. Yeah.
Yeah. I find that also in percentage wise, I think men are maybe 1% of who they attract. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think men often want to learn from other men.
Yeah. That's true.
And the men who show up in my world for this work, we have the best time. They are so committed and willing, and we just go for it, whether it's a one-on-one session or, a quest or some of that creative type work. They're just so in. It's great.
Yeah. Do you have, I was mentioning in the beginning when I was talking about my own work, I kind of said it tongue in cheek, but I really mean it, that my ultimate goal is world peace. Do you have anything, just kind of bigger in mind with what you're doing?
Yes and no. I think it changes a lot for me. I think, though, ultimately, what I want is for people to have the deepest experience of who they are. The truth is, I want people to have the most incredible human experience that they can.
Yeah.
And I don't know what that means for everybody, but I feel like the work that I offer can and is a piece of that for the folks I get to connect with. But I believe that is a huge part of why we're here. We are here to have a human experience, so let's have the best one.
Yes.
And that means, can mean peace, world peace. I hope that is part of it. And for me, the work is very much about the human experience, both individual and collective. How do we make this a great one?
Yeah. And I noticed that you don't, unless I've missed it, I do kind of follow you religiously, but I've noticed that you don't really talk about politics or society or, what do you have thoughts about that?
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, and I don't talk about it much in my newsletter pieces. With no real reason, unless it comes up as something I want to write about. I think I do and have talked about it more on social media. I'm not particularly active on social media in this moment in time, just because of my natural ebbs and flows. But I am a big believer in justice and equity. Um, I am disheartened at the rising fascism that is everywhere. As a Jew, I was raised with never again. And it is, well, I don't, it unfortunately has been again and again in so many societies, genocide. And seeing it happen here to trans folks, seeing it happen here to Black people, to people of color, to Jews, to, those of the global majority, to see white supremacy rising is horrifying. And I hope in, all of the ways and the ways that I show up in with my clients, with the work that I do, with, my civil responsibilities of contacting my representatives. I'm sure they're sick of me. The long voicemails I will leave. Because, when things rise up, we get to see them clearer and hopefully deal with them clearer. I always want to do better in that capacity, and be a better ally. And, that's just, it's always a growing edge for me. But it's something I hold a lot of passion about.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you said is so important. I see it the same way, that you can't heal something if you don't see it, if you don't face it. So
Yeah.
I can't say I'm grateful for all the stuff that's going on, but I do see the bigger picture that we're feeling it and we're healing it. Just like, the inner work that I do with people, you've got to get in touch with it to heal it. So yeah.
I say this a lot to my clients. I know they're often annoyed by it. And it's a theme in a lot of my writing of like, we can't set something down that we're not willing to hold.
Yeah.
And it hurts to hold it.
Yeah.
Whether that is globally or individually, it hurts to hold the things that we don't do right, well, perfect, and I can't change it. I can't set it down. I cannot heal it if I'm not willing to bring it into me again. Otherwise, it's this, gnat that becomes a swarm that overtakes us.
Yeah. Well, I have invited Joanna to read us one of her amazing pieces. I'm on her mailing list and I get these things and I just treasure reading them. They're so beautiful, it's so creative and so meaningful. So you said you brought a few things to read?
I did. Yeah. First, thank you. That means a lot. Yeah. So since we were just, well, I'll read the first one is one of my favorite things I think I've ever written. And so sometimes the ritual is getting out of bed, setting your feet on the floor, breathing. Sometimes the ceremony is closing your eyes and pulling yourself back together, or letting the hot water wash over you, or letting the tears burn. Sometimes the prayer is the meal you create, the moment you stretch your body, the time you take to find the moon in the night sky. Sometimes holy is all that you have.
Oh, chills. That's beautiful. It really is. I love poetry. I could listen to poetry all day. So read us another one. I love that.
Okay. This is one, I don't know if I've ever really shared it. It's a piece I wrote for a friend of mine. If you're my friend, sometimes you get magical little birthday presents. And I wrote
Wow.
her a bunch of different invitations and invocations just for her. And I told her I was going to start sharing them because I liked him so much. So this is an invitation to lay it down. You are to carry only what was knitted from the furrow of your brow and the tread of your feet, not what was handed to you, not what has been thrown at you, not what has been placed before you, howling and desperate to be carried to the fire. Yes, all that you fear could happen, will, and still it is not yours to hold, and any attempts to weave it into your being only makes it harder for you to breathe while the world around you plays in repetition, never finding the solace and density they crave. So lay it down upon the earth. Let it be eaten by jackals and lovers alike. Lay it down and let yourself find what has been hidden beneath all of this time.
Ah. More. Do you have more that you can read?
I have one more. Yeah, absolutely. This is, this one does not have a title. Said the deity of thunder and times that slip away. Let it fall from your fingers and crack on the stone below. Let preciousness give away to the tides, the ones that shape the crags and shake the world that lives between our bones, wide open, alive, alight, and ready for the day that is almost, always, perpetually dawning.
Wow.
Oh, thank you.
Well, we have 10 more minutes. What else would you like to tell people that are listening to this and sitting there with chills like I am?
I recently spent a lot of time kind of, again, in this edge of my work changing and what I'm stepping into. And my last quest, like I said, was all about density. And I know, at least in my life, like the contraction and the density got a really bad rap because it was all about like lightness and expansion. And I love that. And I really have come to this deep appreciation of the density, of the contraction, because it's in the contraction that everything comes together. It's in the contraction that things are born. I'm here with a certain density. Literally, this is what I matter, you matter, we all are matter. And what matters is what is dense and what is deep and what is real, in addition to what is light and airy and expansive. And I've found myself currently on this journey of what am I claiming for myself? And in that claiming, what am I willing to bring in and make dense and make real? And because, of course, this is up in my world, I'm seeing it everywhere in so many of my clients and the folks I get to work with, of how hard it is sometimes to say, yes, this is what I'm doing, instead of waiting for the answer. I've always wanted like the sign and the answer to come from above. And I'm seeing, I love when that happens, but so often I am the answer and you are the answer. And whoever we are, we hold that answer and we pretend we don't. I pretend I don't because I want the assurance. And there's no assurance here. I get to show up and say, yeah, this is mine. I'm claiming this. This is who I am. And that's where I am in so much of my world right now, of saying, I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I'm a facilitator of these journeys into the evers, into this world of make-believe made real. Because I think that there's something here for us, individually, collectively, for us to claim for ourselves.
Yeah. And to deserve and to intuitively know that this is my direction.
Yeah.
trusting our intuition, trusting the part of you that said, no, I can't do this therapy stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think like that deserving really resonated with me, because I think, for me, the unraveling, it's never truly the soul we're unraveling. It's everything around it.
Yes.
Can I unravel the stories that are not mine, that I have been handed, that I have believed were my skin for so long that I was unwilling to take that shroud off. But once I begin to pull at the threads, it's like, oh, right. There's something else here. There's me here. And who
Yes.
am I, outside of everyone telling me who I'm supposed to be?
Yeah.
And do I deserve that? Do I deserve to trust myself?
Yeah.
Heck yes. Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
But convincing ourselves of that is a little bit different, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I think in part, that is one of the biggest invitations I have to keep coming back to. Can I trust myself? And the answer is always yes, but there's, some unraveling that almost always has to take place
Yeah.
in those like big moments for me to see it. Worth
Yeah.
it. Hard, but worth it every time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think your story about getting fired,
Yeah.
it really resonates with me, because everything in my life has happened in that way, where I look back and I go, oh, no wonder that happened. Oh, no
Mhm.
wonder. Yeah. And it's, trusting those things that happen that don't make sense in the moment, and do make sense 5 years, 10 years, 20 years later. It's pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do people get in touch with you? How do people get on your mailing list and on your Facebook page and all that wonderful stuff that you're doing?
So my website is joannadane.com. Real simple and easy. I also have a Substack. It's joannadane.substack.com. That's where I've been doing and sharing most of my writing these days. It just feels good. I do have a paid subscription there where folks get I do regular clearings for the new moon, and I do full moon work, and I give people secret messages and intuitive readings. It's one of my most favorite things to do. I do a whole thing around at Hanukkah. And so I just started working it into of giving people secret messages that time of year and gifts. And so this is a way to get that all year long. And yeah, on there, on my website, you can find my socials. I am somewhat on Facebook and Instagram these days. I'm sort of in the ebb in that moment. I'm sure there will be a flow coming back soon. I'm waiting for it.
Yes, you definitely ebb and flow all the time, which I think is just great. Yeah. And the moon ceremonies, we have a couple minutes here. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I love to do, especially for the new moon, I take requests from people of what they're ready to transform, to shed, to heal. And I work with each person's energy individually and then as a group to just gently help to shed that. To me, it's just a way to be of service in a group way that lets people experience, a touch of what I do, but really just lets me be of service and help people have a little bit more grace. And for the new moon, I tend to do like a claiming or a weaving. People share with me, what they want. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to attract, to bring in, to call forward, to create internally, externally. And again, I just gently work with each person's energy to bring that in. And I love kind of hearing the stories a few months later from people that are like, that thing you cleared, how did that, it just changed. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I love when it
So
works.
all those little ceremonies that you do, they're all available I've seen them on Facebook. I've seen them in your.
Yeah, I generally do the new moon for everybody. So
Yeah.
there, I will put it on Facebook. I'll put it on the Substack. I do the full moon these days just for the folks who are paid Substack subscribers. But the new moon work is really important to me as an act of service. So I invite whoever wants to participate.
Yeah.
And I do it. I have a skylight and I bathe under the skylight. I can see the moon. Especially when it's a full moon. Obviously, I can't see it on the new moon, but I just sort of lay there and do the work. And it's spectacular every time.
And it's all free, which I think is
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah, it is all free. I had that backwards. I always do the full moon for everyone, and the new moon. Brain today. And the new moon I tend to do just for the subscribers. So yeah, I will be putting up a post probably later today or tomorrow about the full moon, because it will be here very soon, and we'll be doing some deep clearing for the full moon, which I love, just love.
Awesome. Well, keep up the good work, Joanna Dane. And I'm just so honored that I fell into your Facebook postings, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing. And thank you. And I just want to end by saying, deserve to awaken to your perfect life. And I will see you in a couple of weeks. If anybody's interested, starting a class on Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, reach out to me, and I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much again, Joanna.
Thank you. This is incredible. Thank you.
Good.